Welcome to the TV Lounge, a place where we get together to view and discuss lesser-known TV series. You know, there are plenty of places to discuss the latest hit shows, but we're here to tell you about some older programs you might not have heard of or watched. Some are quite good, and others, well, they're worthy of discussion and dissection. So have a seat here in the extra recliner and join us in the TV Lounge. Well, hello, Andy. How are you today?
Hello. Doing well. It's been a while since we've talked or done this.
Yes, it has been quite a while. Are you interested in getting started on our very last crime traveler? And
definitely.
Shall I say it, get this one behind us?
Definitely. Yep.
All right. Well, let's jump into a little TV news before we do that. Some shows that have been canceled and some have been renewed. As everybody knows, Heroes is canceled. That's kind of old news by the time we get this podcast published. But there is a chance that NBC is going to look at some sort of a series wrap-up, like a movie of some sort.
Interesting.
What do you think? You think that'd be worth watching just to kind of close off some storylines?
I don't know. Probably, although I've been pretty out of touch with Heroes kind of after the second season. Just kind of didn't follow it too much after that. But
now some shows that were, as they say, on the bubble have been renewed. Human Target was renewed. There are 4 brand new shows at Fox. 2 of them are comedies. One's called Keep Hope Alive and the other's Traffic Light. And they have a pair of dramas. One is Ride Along and the other is Midland. Keep Hope Alive and Traffic Light are going to, well, they're trying to end a losing streak that Fox has for live-action comedies. Keep Hope Alive is about a guy who suddenly takes custody of a baby and raises her with the help of his family. Boy, that sounds original, doesn't it? Traffic Light is about a group of friends at varying stages of relationships. Stop, go, and caution, hence the title.
I'm not getting that one.
I don't think it's going to last. How about this? Ride Along is a Chicago-set cop show. It follows a veteran officer and the city's new police chief. Lone Star, which is also called Midland, is about a con man leading a double life in Texas.
Are these sound like summer filler shows? Is that kind of what they are, or
they do, don't they? Yeah, well, I don't know if they're summer fillers or if they're being picked up for the fall.
Okay.
But those are some shows that Fox has announced. Now, have you been watching the new V?
Yes.
They've been picked up for another 13 episodes for a second season. But the bad news is it's going to be mid-season. It's not going to start up in the fall. It's going to be next spring, next winter.
Okay.
It's not going to be right away.
Huh.
So we're going to have to wait a while to see how that one plays out.
I thought the V pilot was really good. I've been kind of moderately excited about the following episodes, but the pilot I loved. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where they're going to. I mean, I've seen them all, so it'll be cool to see where they go.
And it was a bit of a cliffhanger they left us off on, wasn't it? Well, Chuck's been picked up for another season, and there's that new show, The Cape. Have we mentioned The Cape at all yet, you and I?
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, though.
Well, I can give you the official description of the series. The Cape is an hour-long drama series about an honest cop, Vince Faraday, working in a corrupt police force. He finds himself framed for a series of murders and presumed dead. He's forced into hiding, leaving behind his wife and their son. Fueled by a desire to reunite with his family and to battle the criminal forces that have taken over Palm City, Faraday becomes the Cape, his son's favorite comic book superhero, and takes the law into his own hands. Rounding out this cast is a billionaire who is the Cape's nemesis, and there's another character called Max Malini, the ringleader of a circus gang of bank robbers. He actually mentors Vince Faraday and trains him to be the Cape. And there is Orwell, a female investigative blogger who wages war on crime and corruption in Palm City. And finally, Marty Voigt, a former police detective and a friend of Faraday. And there's No Ordinary Family. This is an ABC show. I'm sure we've mentioned this one, haven't we?
I don't recall that one either.
Well, this is a superhero family action series. It sounds a lot like
The Incredibles?
The Incredibles.
Oh, so this is a family of superheroes?
Yeah, it's a mom, a dad, who along with their kids develop superpowers after a plane crash in the Amazon River. Here's the official extended description. The Powells are about to go from ordinary to extraordinary. After 16 years of marriage, Jim and Stephanie's relationship lacked the spark it once had. And their family life now consists of balancing work and their 2 children, leaving little time for family bonding. During a family vacation that was set up by Jim in an attempt to reconnect, their plane crashes into the Amazon River. But this is where the fun starts for the Powells, as they soon discover that something's not quite right. Each of them now possesses unique and distinct superpowers. But saving and savoring their family life may be equally important as they try to find purpose for their new power and embark on a journey to find out what defines and unifies them. It says, and I'm quoting here, the Powells are a totally relatable family that happens to be a little bit amazing.
Interesting.
So are you going to check that one out?
I'll check it out. I thought it was funny in the description. It says, they crashed into the Amazon River.
Uh-huh.
They crashed into the Amazon River, but something isn't right. First of all, they crashed into the Amazon River.
Yeah, that's not right in the first place. What is it about the river that gives them the superpowers?
Exactly. I guess I don't know much about that river.
I don't think I want to go swimming in it.
Maybe there's kryptonite.
All right. Hey, I got another sci-fi one for you. Are you ready for this? They've given the green light to something called super evolution. Now, listen to this description, and you tell me what this has to do with super evolution.
Okay.
It centers on a super volcano that erupts in Yellowstone Park. A firefighter and a volcanologist team up in an attempt to save lives.
Wait.
Doesn't that just sound like super evolution to you?
Huh. Yeah, totally. I mean,
That was my thought, too. Okay, NBC has picked up a series called Chase. It's actually from Emmy award-winning executive producer Jerry Bruckheimer.
Okay.
And executive producer Jennifer Johnson. They both have a pretty good track record for TV shows. NBC says Chase has all the undeniable elements of a thrill ride that you would expect from a Bruckheimer action series. They say it's a fast-paced drama that drops viewers smack into the middle of a game of cat and mouse as a team of U.S. Marshals hunts down America's most dangerous fugitives. Yeah.
Okay.
You never know. It could be good, maybe not. You remember Napoleon Dynamite?
Of course.
Of course. Did you realize that Fox is developing an animated series
Wait, what?
of Napoleon Dynamite? Uh-huh.
Okay.
A cartoon.
Are they going to actually use John Heder for the voice? I wonder.
That apparently is correct.
Oh, okay. Well,
They're using a lot of the same actors for the voices of these characters. And the guys who developed Napoleon Dynamite are closely involved with this animated series.
okay. I'm pretty curious to see that one.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how that would work, but it seems to me something like Napoleon Dynamite, it would wear real thin after a long time.
Probably.
Let's move on to one other list here. Bunch of shows for ABC. These are all fall shows, and just a very quick name and a one-sentence description of each of these programs. Let me know what you think, if any of these sound really good to you. Here's one called Better Together. It's a sitcom about 2 couples, one conservative, the other impulsive.
All right.
Body of Proof, an hour-long drama about a former neurosurgeon who solves crimes. Now tell me if you've seen any of these shows before, because I've seen these shows lots of times before.
Well, a neurosurgeon. I mean, that reminds me of that whatever that show was. Dick Van Dyke was a doctor, and then he would solve crimes. Remember
exactly. That? And it also reminds me of the old Quincy one where the guy was the medical examiner and he solved crimes.
Yeah.
We've had lots of doctors solving crime shows. The next one is Detroit 187. They're calling it a faux documentary hour-long show following a Detroit homicide detective. Here's My Generation. This is an hour-long show about a group of high school classmates reunited after 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. The Whole Truth. It's a legal drama about a pair of law school friends who find themselves on different sides of court cases. Mm-hmm. Happy Endings. A sitcom about what happens to a group of friends when two of them divorce. That sounds like a happy ending, doesn't it?
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Sunshine. Mr. Sunshine is a sitcom about a sports arena manager.
These are the one-line descriptions. I mean, a sitcom about a sports arena manager. How in the world did they pitch that one and have it like picked up?
I don't think I even want to go there. We have one more. Off the Map. It's 5 doctors operating out of a small South African jungle town.
Is this a reality show? Did you say?
No, it's not reality.
Wait, it's a sitcom?
What we have here is with this last one, the doctors. Okay, we got another doctor show, and all we're doing is changing it from a metropolitan hospital to small South African jungle town. It's going to be another one of those. It's just a doctor show.
Mm-hmm. Like Private Practice or In the Jungle.
Yeah, like any of them. Just name them. Grey's Anatomy. I mean, any of them. That's what it's going to be. It's just the same thing, only different. Aren't you excited for the new fall TV series? Are you going to, go out and buy yourself a TiVo or an extra DVR?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't have a TiVo or a DVR, and I guess I don't need one for a while.
No, probably not. Not with all of this wonderful television coming our way.
I do want to know what the status is of Sharktopus, however.
Exactly, Sharktopus. We do intend to do a review of Sharktopus when it comes out on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I've been watching for Sharktopus online to see, any little tidbits that come across.
The other day you sent me a picture. It was the first picture posted online from the movie, and it looks fantastic.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it certainly does. Well, Andy, let's go ahead and jump into our last episode of Crime Traveler. This one is entitled The Broken Crystal. This episode starts with a woman reading the newspaper. Water begins dripping down onto her paper from the ceiling. She goes out into the hallway and heads upstairs. She's calling out to a Professor Haywood. She approaches the door to the upstairs bathroom, and there's water flowing out into the hall. She knocks on the door and it swings open. She finds Professor Haywood in the overflowing bathtub. He's fully clothed, and he is dead. Jeff Slade and Holly Turner are leaving the movie theater. They have just seen a film entitled Les Enfants du Paradis. Holly loved the movie, and Slade is not so impressed.
That was brilliant. Wasn't that brilliant? That film was made 50 years ago, and it feels timeless.
Yeah, felt pretty endless, too.
Oh, no, you didn't like it?
Oh, subtitles, black and white.
I first saw Les Enfants du Paradis on my first date.
Your first date?
Yeah.
Wait, don't tell me. It was an old French film, so it must have been with an old French man.
No.
As they walk to Holly's apartment for a cup of coffee, Slade asks Holly about her first date. She says it was none of his business. Suddenly, a man comes out of the shadows and calls to Holly. Before he can cross the street to talk to her, he is hit by a passing car. On the front grille of the car is the symbol of a wolf. Before he dies, he grabs Holly by the wrist. and points at something.
He's dead.
You sure you don't know him?
No.
Well, he seemed to know you. He was obviously waiting for you to get back. And someone else was waiting for him.
He was trying to show me something. Come on.
Holly and Jeff run to her apartment and the time machine. Holly plans to go back in time to find out who he was and what he wanted. Slade asks if she's going to try to save the man, but Holly reminds him that she can't. However, she will settle for a look at the vehicle license plate and a view of the driver. When they travel back, Slade rushes out of the room only to be stopped by Holly. The time machine has only sent them back 3 minutes, and the time watch is already beeping its warning. Holly puts the watch back in place, and they begin to return to the present. Just as they get back, something in the time machine explodes. It's the crystal, the heart of the machine. Holly explains that this is the single most expensive part of the machine, and she will never be able to afford to buy another one.
The next morning at police headquarters, Slade, Holly, Morris, and Nikki are meeting with Kate Grisham. She has information on the man who was hit and killed, along with a connection to Professor Haywood and a company called Webb Biotech.
His name was Chapman, Nigel Chapman.
Professor Chapman?
Do you know him?
Well, oh, no, but I've read some of his articles. He worked in the same field as my father.
What field was that?
Quantum physics.
Do you think he was coming to see you?
Well, he called out my name.
Nigel Chapman was working at a company called Webb Biotech. I don't suppose that means anything to you?
No.
Well, it seems he wasn't the only recent fatality that Webb Biotech had suffered, Morris.
This is a newspaper article.
Oh, here we go.
It was found in the inside pocket of the dead man. You want me to read it out, Chief?
That's the idea, Morris.
Scientist drowns in bath. That's the headline. Police last night were making no comment on the mysterious death of Ron Haywood, who headed up a division at the Webb Biotech Corporation. Professor Haywood, who was found dead in the bath, may have suffered a heart attack.
Wait a minute. Haywood, I know him too.
Maybe Chapman was coming to see Holly to tell him about Haywood, and that was what got him killed.
You know, you might have got something there, Robson. That had never occurred to me.
Oh.
Did Chapman say anything to you before he died?
No, he pointed to my arm and he was going to say something, but...
All right.
Slade and Holly take off to visit Webb Biotech, where they are met by Holly's old boyfriend, Stephen Marlowe.
Holly?
Stephen!
How are you?
I'm all right, how are you? What are you doing here?
Well, I'm technical director here. What are you doing here? I was told it was the police.
We are the police.
It's a long story. This is Jeff Slade. We work together. Stephen Marlowe.
Hi.
Good to meet you. God, I can't believe it's you.
I was just thinking about you. Last night, we went to see Les Enfants de Paradis.
No way.
Made 50 years ago, but it still feels timeless.
It was our first date, Les Enfants de Paradis, in that tiny cinema in Cambridge.
That's right.
How can I help?
Well, we've come about Nigel Chapman.
Yeah, what about him?
He was run over and killed last night.
Oh, my God.
Marlowe takes them to talk with the head of the company, Sebastian Webb. They learn that Haywood and Nigel Chapman were working on a revolutionary new design for equipment to study viruses.
Chapman dead?
Yes. I believe he was working with Ron Haywood.
They were both a waste of time and money. 6 months! 6 months working on a project that's going nowhere. Then one of them manages to drown himself. And now this.
What exactly was their project?
Marlowe, you tell them. You know more about it than I do.
They were working in the area of viral research. They were trying to build a new form of synchrotron.
What's that?
Well, it's a bit difficult to explain to the lay mind.
Well, why don't you have a go anyway?
It creates a form of radiation by spinning electrons around an evacuated circular tube at just under the speed of light.
The great advantage is the high frequencies. You can use them rather like X-rays to examine the viruses.
What kind of synchrotron were they building?
A revolutionary new design. More compact, more economic. Could have been worth millions.
When Slade asks to see the equipment, Sebastian Webb tells Marlowe to show them. He is a bit angry at Marlowe for hiring both Haywood and Chapman and wasting so much money. In the lab, Holly examines the synchrotron while Slade pokes around. He tries to open an adjoining door, but it's locked. Marlowe tells him it's just storage. Slade makes a suggestion that Haywood and Chapman might have been killed by Sebastian Webb in order to steal their research.
You said this machine they were working on was worth millions.
Yeah.
Worth millions to whom?
Well, Webb Biotech, of course. You're not suggesting that Webb had them killed in order to steal their designs. Why would he do that? Anyway, there are no designs.
So you say.
As they leave, Holly tells Slade a bit more about her past with Marlowe.
So it was you and him? He was the old Frenchman?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
How did you meet?
My father tutored him at Cambridge. Then later on he helped him with some of his research.
Did he know about the time machine?
No. No one knew.
Back at the station, Slade tells Grissom that he wants a tail put on Marlowe. Holly objects, and Grissom thinks Slade's reasoning is a bit thin. He thinks that Marlowe might have killed them to get the designs in order to sell them outside the company. Grissom finally agrees to have Marlowe followed. In Holly's office, she and Slade exchange words. Each accuses the other of taking the case too personally. When Slade leaves with Nikki, Holly's phone rings. It's Stephen Marlowe. At Chapman's apartment, Slade and Nikki interview the landlady. She tells them a strange story about Chapman.
How was he before he died, Mrs.
Beavis. And he was the same as usual.
So there was nothing strange about his behaviour in the week before he died?
Well, now you mention it, he did seem a little nervous about something. And then there was that day he went out twice.
What do you mean?
Well, he always went out at 7:30, sharp. Well, one morning, must have been about a week before it happened. I heard him go. But when I came out, he was still there.
Did you ask him about it?
No, but that boss of his did. He was round here asking all sorts of questions of the professor. Where he was going, what he was doing.
His boss, do you mean Sebastian Webb?
No, I mean that other chap. Dark hair.
Marlowe?
That's his name. Stephen Marlowe.
Later at a fancy restaurant, Holly is dining with Marlowe. Right in the middle of their conversation, Slade walks up to their table and starts questioning Marlowe. Holly is definitely upset with having Slade there, and Marlowe tells Slade that he was nowhere near the place where Haywood was killed. He has an alibi. He claims he was in Knightsbridge on the other side of town, and that he spoke with a newspaper vendor. And the night Chapman was killed, he was in Weybridge, and he asked a policeman for directions.
If you knew where you were, Stephen, why did you bother asking a policeman for directions?
Because I didn't know where I was going.
That is enough. Please don't do that.
Excuse me, whose side are you on?
This isn't about sides.
Look, if you've finished, we are trying to have dinner.
Yeah. Fine. You enjoy it.
When Slade leaves, he is watched by a shadowy figure inside a car with a wolf symbol on the grill. When he returns to his apartment, he receives a phone call. It's from the man in the car. He wants to set up a meeting with Slade.
Hello?
Mr. Slade? Yeah? Who's this?
Are you looking for the man who killed Ron Hayward?
I might be.
I know where he is.
Who are you?
Meet me in half an hour. 1 o'clock at the Tobacco Dogs.
Know them?
Yeah, I can find them. How'll I recognise you? Oh. But you'll recognise me.
In the restaurant, Marlowe is offering Holly a job at biotech. He also says he still has feelings for Holly. Next, we see Jeff Slade walking to meet the man on the phone. In the dark, the man from the phone shoots at Slade. Slade fires back and wounds him. The man drives off. The next morning in Grisham's office, Slade says it was Marlowe, and he wants to bring Marlowe in for questioning. At Webb Biotech, Sebastian Webb is questioning Steve Marlowe about his accounts when Grisham, Slade, and Nikki burst in.
I don't understand these accounts. I didn't approve any of them.
No, but as I told you, I did.
Mr. Webb, I'm sorry.
What is this?
The police. We're here to see Mr. Stephen Marlowe.
You're under arrest.
This is ridiculous.
Marlowe, do you mind telling me what the hell is going on?
Yes, they're mad. This is some sort of obsession.
Where were you last night at 1 o'clock?
None of your damn business.
How's your shoulder?
What?
According to Slade, he wounded you last night in the right shoulder.
Oh, that's easy enough to disprove. Would you mind?
Marlowe removes his coat and opens up his shirt. There is no bullet wound. Back at headquarters, Morris and Nikki are escorting Marlowe into a holding room. Slade is trying to convince Grisham that it was definitely Marlowe's voice on the phone. An officer comes up to Grisham and gives her a paper. The information confirms Marlowe's alibis for the Haywood and Chapman murders.
A newspaper seller called John Burford ID'd Marlowe in Knightsbridge at the time of Haywood's death. And a policeman called Munns remembers giving him directions in Weybridge at exactly the same time Chapman was killed.
Maybe he's got a twin.
A what?
We still don't know where he was last night.
When they question Marlowe, he says he was with Holly Turner when Slade was attacked, and Holly verifies what Marlowe says.
It's true. We left the restaurant at 11 and then went back to Stephen's house.
I didn't want to tell them, Holly. Really, I didn't.
We talked for a few hours, mainly about Stephen's work, and then I left about 2:30.
And he was in your sight the entire time?
Yes, Chief.
Well, Mr. Marlowe, it looks like I owe you an apology.
Well, I'm not sure that I can accept it. Not only do you arrest me in front of my boss, but you do so at the whim of an officer who's obviously pursuing some personal vendetta.
Stephen.
No, I'm sorry, Holly. I take it I'm free to go?
Yes.
Fine. Then all I can say is you'll be hearing from my lawyers.
When Holly leaves Grisham's office, she gives Slade a dirty look, and Morris tells him, "Nice work." When Slade starts to say something to Grisham, she cuts him short. She is obviously very angry at Jeff Slade.
Chief. Not now. You'd better type up a report for the Commissioner. You really are a walking bloody disaster.
As Marlowe leaves, Holly runs after him. She tries to convince him that Slade didn't mean it personally, but Marlowe is not swayed. He claims he was humiliated and that Slade will pay for it in court. Then Holly tells Marlowe that she's decided to accept his offer to go to work for Marlowe and Webb Biotech. Then she tells Marlowe that she has something to show him at her apartment. It's her time machine.
There.
What is it? Wait a minute. I don't believe it. It can't be. This is a time machine. You've done it. You've actually done it. Did you build it?
No, my father built it. I just added on to it.
I don't know what to say. It's incredible. Does it work?
Yes, it works.
But Heath Robinson, some of these circuits are 20 years old.
It works, Stephen.
How far have you travelled?
A few hours, sometimes a day.
But you can't control the timeline.
No, not yet.
Have you tried lengthening the photon rods?
Money.
I just can't believe you've actually done it. Tachyon bombardment, creating a wormhole. Show me.
I can't.
Holly shows Marlowe the damaged sapphire crystal and asks if Marlowe can replace it. Marlowe says he can get her everything she wants, and then he kisses her. At police headquarters, Slade is typing up his report, but he's puzzled by a couple of things. Then Morris comes up and says he's going out. There's something wrong with his car.
I'm sure the answer to this is staring me in the face. When Chapman was run over, he was pointing to Holly's arm. And that Beavis woman was going on about Haywood being in two places at the same time, but he can't have been. Where are you going?
Out. Got to get my car checked over.
Why?
And this morning when I was watching Marlowe, it all went crazy.
Really?
Radio on and off, windscreen wipers, even the cigarette lighter, all the electrics.
Morris, where were you when this happened?
Outside, Webb, whatever it is.
Hearing that, Slade jumps up from his desk and goes to Holly's office, but she isn't there. Outside Holly's apartment building, she and Marlowe are leaving to go to one of his facilities. Slade has started to put together the pieces of the crime. He rushes to Holly's apartment only to learn from Danny that Holly and Marlowe left there about an hour before. In Marlowe's car, Holly notices that they're driving out of town. She asks Marlowe what's going on, and Marlowe pulls out a gun and points it at her, tells her to keep driving. Meanwhile, Slade goes to Webb Biotech and enters the lab. He breaks into the so-called storage room to find it isn't a storage room, but a very sophisticated time machine. He starts the machine and sets it to go back 120 minutes. He grabs the time machine watch timer and heads out of Webb Biotech only to discover his car is not there because of his jump through time. So he commandeers one of the biotech company cars. He drives to Holly's apartment just in time to see her and Marlowe leaving. As he follows them, a delivery truck pulls into the road, blocking Slade from keeping up with Marlowe and Holly. When the truck finally moves out of the way, he has lost sight of them.
Holly and Marlowe have arrived at a biotech storage facility. As they enter the building, Marlowe explains why he has kidnapped Holly.
You know, Holly, I'm genuinely sorry about this. I'm very attracted to you. Khakis? Thank you.
Why are you doing this?
I'd have thought that was obvious. Time travel. It's the most astounding discovery since, well, whenever. Whoever puts their name to it is going to go down in history. And think of the money. Billions. And why should I share that with you? In you go.
Inside the facility, Marlowe secures Holly's hands together and takes her to a cold storage room. He also confesses to killing Haywood and Chapman.
You've got a time machine, haven't you? It's how you knew about the photon rods.
Yes, that's how it works. I can be in two places at once. 2 time zones. And when I finish with you here...
You can travel back and give yourself the perfect alibi. Just like you did with Haywood and Chapman.
Exactly.
What is this place?
I told you, it's one of our facilities. Sometimes it's necessary to flash freeze samples, viruses. In you go.
You're going to leave me here?
Well, I couldn't possibly shoot you. Not the way I feel about you. And this will be completely painless.
Marlowe has tied Holly's hands to an overhead pipe. He is going to leave her there to freeze to death. Slade is continuing to look for Holly's car when he spots Marlowe leaving the facility, but without Holly. Slade turns into the biotech storage facility. He runs through the building until he finds Holly almost frozen to death. He breaks open the door and rescues her. Holly wonders how Slade could have found her so quickly.
How did you find me? You couldn't have found me. You've time traveled.
Yeah.
With his machine.
No, it wasn't his machine. Chapman and Haywood built it. They were moonlighting at Webb's expense.
He was helping them.
Yeah, I'm sure. When they'd finished it, he killed them, using the time machine to give himself an alibi. And then used it again, tried to kill me. Right?
You shot him?
Yes, whilst he was time travelling. So when he got back to the present, the wounds had cleared up.
It's then that they notice Slade only has 12 minutes to get back to the time machine. As they drive back to Webb Biotech, Sebastian Webb is on the phone to Grisham complaining about Slade stealing one of their company cars. Grisham says she will be right over. Holly and Slade rush to Marlowe's time machine only to find Marlowe already there, and he's holding a gun to them, preventing Slade from returning to the machine.
I had a feeling it was you at the cold store.
I think your game's up, Steve.
I wouldn't say that, Mr. Slade. In fact, if either of us was in trouble, I'd say it was you.
Stephen.
Interesting situation, don't you think? Do you know what happens if you don't get back in the machine? You get sucked into the loop of infinity. Very convenient for me. It'll be as if you didn't exist at all.
I have 1.5 minutes.
Alternatively, you could take one step forward and I'll shoot you dead. If you're time travelling now, the effect will be the same. Either way, I won't have to dispose of a body.
And what about me?
You won't tell anyone. Don't tell me you really care for this arrogant plod. Holly, you can still come with me.
At that invitation from Marlowe, Holly moves away from Slade and takes a position beside Steve Marlowe. But instead of siding with him, Holly knees him in the groin. Slade rushes forward and the two men struggle. The gun fires and hits the time machine. Slade overpowers Marlowe and runs into the burning machine. He sets the timer back in its place. He returns to the present. As he attempts to escort Marlowe out of the building, Marlowe breaks free and goes running back to the time machine. Slade catches up in time to see Marlowe trying to use the time machine, but he gets stuck in a 5-second loop and the machine explodes.
Back at Holly's apartment, she and Slade discuss what Holly plans to do with her machine since she can't replace the damaged crystal.
What are you going to do with it then?
What?
The machine. I mean, if it doesn't work anymore and you can't afford to replace the...
Electromagnetic crystal?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't believe it's all over. All my father's work. But the bank won't lend me any more money, so I've got nowhere else to go.
So frustrating, isn't it? When you think of all those crimes we could be solving.
It's not the point.
We were a good team, you and me.
Yeah.
Look, if we could get it working again...
Well, we can't. So that's a completely hypothetical question, all right?
Completely.
With that, Slade reaches into his jacket and pulls out a brand new sapphire crystal.
One electromagnetic crystal with niobium casing.
Where did you get that?
Well, when I went back in after Marlowe...
You didn't.
I did.
As Holly reaches to take the crystal from Slade, their fingers intertwine. And that ends the last episode of Crime Traveler, The Broken Crystal. Well, Andy, that's it. The last episode of Crime Traveler. What were your thoughts on this episode specifically?
Well, I'm sort of glad we're at the end, actually.
Yeah, I think I am too.
You know, this episode, it definitely felt like a finale. I think they kind of stepped it up in a lot of ways as far as production value goes. I thought the cinematography was a little better. The lighting looked better. The overall, just the color everywhere looked better. And I don't know if that was partially just... I don't know if they used better film stock or if they just did the set dressing different, but it just kind of looked better to me.
The episode had a lot more blue color than the other episodes.
Yeah, and actually I noticed, like in Grisham's office, her walls were blue, and for some reason I don't remember them being blue before. I remember their whole office just kind of being white.
Drab?
And maybe I just didn't notice, but for some reason I noticed this time.
It did look a little brighter overall, didn't it?
Anyway, they just kind of did a little bit more of a dramatic sort of lighting setup.
Any little things that you noticed in this episode specifically? Because I've got a few things that I thought about.
Okay, so at the beginning, after they come out of the theater and then the car hits the guy, I guess I shouldn't laugh, but the emblem of the wolf emblem on the car was just so stupid looking. I don't know. It just...
Not only that, but think about this. We had the wolf emblem on the grill of the car, right? And it was very prominent, not only at the hit and run, but when Marlowe calls Slade on the phone, we've got that close-up of the wolf emblem, but there was never any resolution to that. Nowhere near the end of the episode did that wolf emblem come into play. We never got confirmation that the car indeed belonged to Stephen Marlowe.
Exactly, and I mean, unless I missed it, but I don't think we ever find out any sort of significance of the wolf as a symbol or that it belonged to... Did I miss that, or...
No, there was never any reference to that wolf except those two shots of the grill of the car, and that was it.
Right, and it was just kind of funny that, you've got the close-up of the camera, like, zooming in on the guy's face as he's about to be hit, and then the wolf, like, zooming into the camera, and it's just really... It
comes across like that should be some significance, and yet there was no significance to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Did you like how I got a chuckle when Slade mentioned to Grissom that Marlowe must have a twin? Well, what did that remind you of?
Right, when Morris thought that Slade had a double.
That Slade had a twin. And here is Slade telling Grissom that Marlowe must have had a twin.
Yeah.
It's like, duh, didn't you figure it out yet?
Dad, did you notice this episode, to me, as I watched it, felt like not that much about time travel. I mean, I know it was about time travel, and at the end, it's all about the time machines, but for a lot of the show, it just kind of felt like a normal cop show.
Right, more of a procedural show, and this was not as much of a procedural.
Yeah, and you didn't really do much involving, I don't know, you just didn't really see the time machines that much until the end.
That's true. Well, I wanted to touch on a couple other things that I noticed. And that is at the Webb Biotech storage facility, where Marlowe was, where he left Holly to freeze to death. When they go in, he opened up the outside door. He punched numbers on a keypad. But when Slade arrives to get into the building, he just opens the door like it wasn't locked. Now, I doubt that either Marlowe forgot to set the lock or that the lock didn't automatically set once the door was closed. But Slade just goes and opens the door.
I didn't notice that.
And the door to the freezer, did you see that big slider lock on the top of the door? Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And then Slade, he gets that other piece of metal and he pries the door open, but he never reaches up and slides over the lock. It's like,
Yeah,
even if you're going to have to pry the door open, wouldn't it be a little easier if you slid the lock open first?
Yeah, on that whole part of him, like, prying the door open, I just kind of thought, I don't really think that would work.
I don't think so either. And the last thing I had was, this is the first episode where we've seen any romance whatsoever. It's the first episode where any of the characters kissed. But unfortunately, it was Holly and Marlowe, and Holly didn't seem to like that very much.
No.
But at the end, we had Slade and Holly holding hands when she takes the crystal. So I think
that was such a cheesy moment too.
It was. Okay, I think if the whole series had continued, if the series had continued at all, we probably would have seen more romance begin to develop between Jeff Slade and Holly Turner.
Right. It just was so funny seeing them hold hands over the crystal. It was kind of funny. Now, and that reminds me, I assume they were planning this to just be a season finale? They weren't aware, they didn't know at this point if the show would be picked up or not again?
No, they were not aware that the show would not be continued. This was like a season finale. They didn't realize it would be the end of the series. It's like they said, there was a change of management at the BBC, and basically Crime Traveler just got overlooked.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this one?
I did have one other thought on the crystal. It didn't look like much of a crystal to me. I mean, maybe that's kind of... It looked like a little mini lava light filled with oil and water. You know what I mean? Like a little glass rocket filled with oil and water. And
do you think it was a good note to end the series on?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I don't know. It was pretty good. I guess it was nice to see Slade and Holly, hold hands or whatever. I really, honestly, though, I thought it was a little weird to have the second time machine. I guess it made sense. I preferred Holly's time machine being unique and the only one. The idea that there could be another one, I don't know, for some reason I just didn't like that so much.
Kind of takes away from the uniqueness of the series.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, is this a series you would recommend anybody?
I think it depends. It's only 8 episodes. It kind of depends on the mood. If you just kind of want to watch some... I don't know. It depends on the mood, I guess.
In other words, if you have 8 hours to waste and nothing better to do?
Yeah. Would you recommend it?
I probably would to certain people.
Right. No, it was fun to watch, though.
I would recommend it for a couple of reasons. One, because it's one of the only time travel shows that I've seen that treated time travel differently than any other time travel show or movie. It was a little more logical or a little more believable than the rest.
Yeah, they kind of had some interesting rules and, laws to time and stuff, which was kind of fun.
All right. Well, I guess that's enough about Crime Traveler.